Hi, I'm Dr. Kevin Milo, and you're listening to the Physician Empowerment Podcast. At Physician Empowerment, we're focused on transforming the lives of Canadian physicians through education and finance, practice transformation, wellness, and leadership. After you've listened to today's episode, I encourage you to visit us at phys-empowerment.ca, that's PHYS, empowerment.ca, to learn more about the many resources we have to help you make that change in your own life, practice, and personal finances. Now on to today's episode.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning on a Saturday morning for whoever is listening. It will be a different day. But welcome to another very interesting episode in our podcast, in our mini series called Medical Entrepreneurship. I'm really excited to interview a friend, a neighbor, and a very good colleague of mine, Dr. Louis Francescutti. And Louis has so many titles. He has won so many awards. He's got many achievements in different fields. And I'm really honored to have Louis onto our show. And last year, Louis won the Order of Canada, when he was appointed to the Order of Canada. So congratulations. We met again a few weeks ago at the Family Medicine Innovation Forum. And Louis also won a few awards for his medical innovation. So why don't we turn this over to Louis, and maybe Louis, you can tell us who you are, what you've done, and are you still practicing? What are you doing inside of medicine, outside of medicine?
Well, thanks for the invitation. I still work at the Royal Alexandra Hospital and the Northeast Emergency Departments. I do about 8 to 10 shifts a month. So that keeps me honest. And I see the failures of preventative medicine and public health on a daily basis when I'm working. And the other part of me, I'm a professor in the School of Public Health at the University of Alberta. So I get the opportunity to have time to stop and think about the theory of why medicine should work for everyone. And then when I work in the emergency department, I see the failures on a daily basis. So that disconnect is, I guess, what keeps the hamster wheel spinning in me, because every time I come away from a shift in emergency, I see our failures, and then I try and address them in the academic world. And the best example I can give you is we have an epidemic of patients showing up in emergency that are experiencing homelessness, especially our seniors. I've never seen as many seniors showing up homeless as I've seen in the last year.
Yeah.
And so we developed a program with our students called Bridge Healing, where we actually go out in the community and actually build buildings, raise the capital, build the building, and then give these men and women in emergency that are willing an opportunity to immediately go from emergency to Jasper Place Wellness. And these healing houses that we've created allow them the opportunity to get their lives back on track and be given an opportunity to start over again. So there are solutions to the problems that we're facing today, and physicians have far greater control than they think they do. They just need to start thinking a little differently, finding something they're passionate about, and then use their currency as a physician in the community to open the doors and talk to non-conventional partners that can do as much for health as we can do in our offices.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing. So let me retrack a little bit. So how did you start with this kind of vision, right? Because we talk about visioneering a lot in our space. And so most people are trapped in this empty space. You and I are in the grind, right? And you and I happen to work in the same city. I have lots of patients in that same hospital, right, when you emerge. And so there are lots of us that just go through a daily grind, and then we whine and we complain, we got burnout. So how did all this start? Can you share with us?
Yeah, the genesis of it is actually quite interesting. I teach a course with an adjunct faculty member, Igor Zorik, where we teach students in the School of Public Health, graduate students, nursing students, how to pick a public health topic, and then over a course of 13 weeks, develop a case for that topic. And then they have to have a live press conference. This isn't a practice press conference. It's a live press conference where they take the topic they've chosen and worked on for 13 weeks, present it with solutions, and that's how Bridge Healing started. So they picked many topics. So menstrual products for high school students, and that now has become a standard, or easier access to naloxone, or better care for dementia patients, or bicycle paths, or e-cigarettes, you name it. They're all public health topics. And in 2019, they chose a better way to house homeless patients. And so they came up with a concept, had a press conference, generated a lot of buzz. And then before you know it, we started continuing to seek community partners, found the partners, and then fortuitously, the Royal Alexandra Hospital stepped up and said, this is so important that we're going to embark on a $10 million 3-year campaign. Last summer, the city stepped up and said, we're going to be providing you free city lots plus a $10 million grant to start building more of these buildings. So with the help of Alberta Health Services initially, then Recovery Alberta, and then Assisted Living, we have the operating funds to show that this is a new model that works. And so for men and women that go through the program, there's a 70% reduction in return visits to emergency. So you can imagine taking these men and women whose lives are addicted to chaos and breaking through that chaos and expanding the bandwidth that they have to actually receive help and feel that there's nothing to give back in returns, because like we're not peddling religion, we're not peddling anything. It's basically we just want to help you. And that's what I said earlier. It gives great satisfaction, and it relieves a lot of that moral distress that we're all feeling because you're trying to do something. And it's amazing how you'll find similarly minded individuals that want to help out. And then before you know it, you've created momentum and a model that others can follow. So there's people from Nova Scotia and Ontario and, Southern Alberta that are interested in replicating the model we've developed. And then what ends up happening is you can partner with institutions. So we partner with NATE. NATE's provided some brilliant students, and we've hired one of them who's developed 2 AI chatbots. So we've got 2 chatbots now that interact with our clients, manage the data from our healing houses, and then is able to actually predict outcomes. And then on top of that, the Faculty of Rehab Medicine steps up and says, hey, we want to virtually take care of wounds for your men and women that show up at Bridge Healing. So we've now developed this virtual wound care clinic for our clients as well. So it's one thing leads on top of another, and success begets success. And, you got to maintain your enthusiasm. And when you get a setback, learn from it. And don't accept no is basically the motto that we work with.
Wow, that's amazing. A lot of people say that, but it's easier said than done, right? I remember way back you started this campaign on helmets.
Yeah.
Right. This is I think Lou and I met way back in late 80s, early 90s in the residency program. He was a chief resident. I was, I think, a student intern, something like that, right? But that's when that all started, right? And then it became a law, right, for bikers, bicycle.
Yeah. So what you do is you look for problems, and then you find solutions to those problems. And then around that era too, it was perfectly legal riding in the back of a pickup truck, in the box of a pickup truck. And so we partnered with a mom who had lost her son in Red Deer in a crash. And I got 5 emergency docs that had pickup trucks. We had an impromptu press conference on the legislative grounds. We just drove our pickup trucks there, called the media, and said that it's insane that people are allowed to be transported in the back of pickup trucks. And then within a couple of months, legislation was passed banning that. So you identify issues, and then you be prepared to stand up for it and develop a strategy. Like, what's your ask? So no matter what public health problems out there, you have to frame it, and then you have to come up with solutions. Like, it's not good enough to point out there's problems, but come up with solutions and be part of the solution. Otherwise, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem, right?
Right. Let me pick up another line that you were talking about, and that's a moral duress, or some people refer to that as moral injury, right? Because people, especially in your field as emerge physicians, I think now the stats is like 7 out of 10 emerge docs are facing burnout, right? Lots and lots of people are quitting or shortening their days, like cutting out the hours. And that doesn't help the problem, right? And one lady who was interviewed or wrote an article said that the most important cause of burnout is moral injury, because we're fighting a battle. Morally, we know we cannot solve it, but the system is wrong. The system is inadequate, right? So as a result, that really grinds at us every day after long shift or after long hours. I'm in preventive health, I'm in senior care, right? We face that battle every day, right? So how do people get out of that pit, right? And I'm talking to us, we're really, really transparent, right? That vulnerable, that we physicians are not bulletproof, right? We get that every day. And how did you emerge from that to actually solving the problem and resolve this moral duress?
Yeah. Well, probably the very first thing I do on a very regular basis is be thankful that I am a physician. So being a physician is one of the greatest honors society bestows on you. And so that should bring some sense of solace on a daily basis, because there's not too many people that are given the opportunity to do what we do and get as well paid as we are. So just take joy in the fact that you made it through medical school and that you are practicing. No matter how hard it is, there's probably a million people that would love to be in your position. So that's the first thing. And then the other thing too is you can only change so much. So don't expect to be able to change everything, but change the things that are under your control. And once you're able to get those small wins, then it makes a really big difference at the end of the day, right? Simple things like, how do you introduce yourself to your patient? I just read this article this week that patients like it when you say, my name is Wing Lim and I'm your doctor. They don't like it when you say, I'm Dr. Lim or I'm Dr. Francescutti. How can I help you? They like a sort of a level playing field. Like, after 35 years of doing this, I didn't know this. So now what I'm trying to do is change my practice to do that. The other thing is, if you don't want patient complaints, 3 empathetic statements to your patient during the visit will almost eliminate any complaints that you will get. So it's little things like that that are within my control. It doesn't cost anything, but I try and read as much as I can and find new things that I can put in practice and then share that with the learners, right? So it's the learners around us that keep us honest, because they're going to carry on what we impart onto them. So if we're whiners and bitchers and complainers about everything, what do you think they're going to be? Exactly the same thing. So give the learners a sense of hope. And I remember Jim Fisher, a pediatric surgeon at the university, one day, the whole system, nothing was working well, and he was so calm. And I said, Dr. Fisher, how come you're not upset? And he goes, I can't control any of it, so why should I get upset about it? And he goes, it's going to ruin my day. It's going to make me feel worse. So he goes, the things I control, I take responsibility for. The things I can't control, I try and change as best I can. But he said, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. And I still remember that as clear as day, that day, because, ORs were being canceled left, right, and center. And there was all sorts of nursing shortages and everything was going terrible. And I expected him to, be upset, but no, just water off his back.
It's about attitude, right? And that's so important. And we went to med school and residency training. We got taught skills, knowledge, but we didn't get a lot of this kind of soft skill, right? A checkup from the neck up, they call it, right? Attitudinal adjustment.
Yeah, well, I like to refer to it as emotional intelligence.
EQ.
And once you master your emotional intelligence, everything's under control, right? And there's a skill to doing it. Well, first of all, you have to understand what emotional intelligence is, and then you have to practice it on a daily basis. And then you have to be cognizant when you're in a situation that requires a really refined approach using emotional intelligence. So if you can control those skill sets, then, while the world is burning around you, you're the one looking for the fire extinguisher, right? Unfortunately, we have a contagion in medicine today that everyone hates the systems we work in. Everyone's complaining about the systems we work in, and that just fuels off the next person. So instead of saying, well, yeah, like when I was working in emergency last night, there was 27 people in the waiting room in Northeast Edmonton. Everyone was complaining, oh, it's so busy. I said, but no, stop and take a look. The city's got 1 million people. There's probably about, 400,000 that live in the Northeast, and there's only 25 of them in the emergency room. So that's really not that bad when you stop and think about it, right?
Right.
Sure, the emergency department's full, but we're here and staffed and we're getting well paid for it. So, just pull up your socks and try and do a better job of seeing patients, and don't sort of say, oh, well, there's 25, they can wait. Well, sure, they can wait, but some of them have been at 2 jobs. Some of them have 3 kids at home. Some of them, have a lot of pressures in their lives, and, help them as much as you can type thing.
So these are perspectives, internal perspectives, monologues, and dialogues amongst our colleagues that could shape our attitude and shape our culture, right? Like you talk about the next generation, right? If they see that we whine and complain all the time, they exactly duplicate that, right? I remember in my residency days, there's some toxic medical culture, right? And hopefully some of those got changed, right? Like people are very cruel to each other. But I hope that we as well, I've been in practice 32 years, 35 years. I hope we're leaving behind a better legacy, right? We would improve the culture.
Yeah, and I really believe AI is going to change things quite drastically, because I see the day where patients can come to an emergency department and actually sit in a booth with an AI chatbot and have their conversation. And a lot of that gets synthesized so that by the time they get to see a healthcare provider, they may not even get to need to see a doctor. So if they talk to an AI chatbot and we've got chatbots right now that are sophisticated enough, and I use, an AI tool in Emerge, just to help me out every now and then and make sure I'm on the right track. But I think that have you got 25 people waiting in a sitting room doing absolutely nothing when you could have 25 booths with them interacting and pre-screening them? Are you immunized? Are your vaccinations up to date? Have you had your pap smear? Is your mammogram okay? Do you need screening for a AAA? Are you smoking? Are you interested in smoking cessation? Is your mental health under control? Have you got a weight reduction plan? I did this back in the 90s in emergency at the Royal Alex with a very rudimentary little tool that basically looked for smokers, people for immunization, pap smears, and weight loss. And then we generated a report so that by the time that they saw the physician could focus in on some preventative measures. So instead of saying, oh, some patients don't have primary care providers, and oh, we're doing such a terrible job. Instead, we should be saying, well, why don't we create a prototype emerge department where there is no waiting room? Like, waiting rooms are a thing of the past. You talk to an AI chatbot, does the initial screening, and maybe it'll book an appointment for you to come back tomorrow at a primary care clinic because you don't have to be seen today. Obviously, the 1s and 2 triages get in right away, but everyone else who's sitting in a waiting room doing nothing, use that as an opportunity. Speak to them in Somali, speak to them in Arabic, speak to them in Italian, French. I don't care what. These chatbots talk every language, and then connect that to Connect Care so that you've got a really good understanding of who this person is, what are their social determinants of health needs. Do they basically need a consult with a nutritionist? I had a couple last night. He was 92, she was 89. She obviously had dementia, and he's trying to care for her at home. And it was a simple personal hygiene issue that brought him in, but he didn't even know what home care was. He didn't have a clue what the system was or how to navigate it.
Yeah.
So we're doing, I think, a pretty, mediocre job at best using the technology that's available. And people will say, well, AI will never replace. No, it's not meant to replace, but it's a tool. And at least start using it as a tool and start thinking futuristically. Like we're dinosaurs when it comes to healthcare. We're still practicing the same way as Hippocrates did.
Yeah. So so thanks for bringing that up. So with the AI chat box thing, then it's not location specific, right? It's not like a Royal Alex or in a university hospital, right? Then this can go onto an app, right? People can just do the chat box anywhere they are, right?
Yeah.
So preventive health now is really not institutionalized, right? So I'm totally for that. I'm not a techie guy. I'm a tech Neanderthal, but I follow, right, and hear about how people are using apps even to go to Emerge. They look at which has the shortest wait, right? So
but that backfires because everyone else sees where the shortest waits are, and by the time they get there, they're no longer the shortest waits. I love this when they show up going, it said it was just an hour wait. And I said, yeah, but you and 100,000 people saw that. And that's why you're all here at the same time. So
Right, exactly. Yeah. Now let's pivot over to something you talk about. You said something that is at no cost. We can do something within our reach. Let's talk about real cost, right? So you've done a lot of initiatives and social enterprises that all cost money, and you magically, quote unquote, found all these partners. So for most physicians or most professionals, this is the scariest thing they ever encounter. They have an idea, they have a dream, they have a vision, but they don't know how they can get outside of their skin to A, to pursue it, B, to get resources, right? How do you break that inertia, the initial friction of the sit, butt, and the seat to get and meet these people and actually get the money in, the
yeah,
capital?
that's the easiest part.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah, that's the easiest part. That's not hard. Like I don't write grants, and everybody knows I don't write grants because they're a waste of time. You know, only
You have a
11%.
reputation of not sugarcoating anything.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, I mean, writing grants, I guess it's good if you like writing grants. I think it's a waste of time because only 11, 12% of grants get funded, and you put so much time and effort into it. I'll bring you $20 million. Didn't go through a grant process, but it's still $20 million at the end of the day. So you
Right.
got raising money is easy. You got to know who's got the money. So to know who's got the money, you've got to be well connected with the community. So try and get invited to go to a Rotary Club or a Lions Club or, Knights of Columbus. There's a lot of clubs out there that are always looking for speakers. So develop an area that you're passionate about, that you know more about that area than anyone else, and then invite yourself to these, Rotarian meetings. They meet on a weekly basis. They're always looking for speakers. And then once you show people your idea, don't be afraid to ask for money. So the way you raise money is you got to know where the money is, how to give the money out, and then you've got to do an ask. And it takes the same amount of work to ask for 10,000 as it does for 100,000 as it does for 1 million. So what you have to do is, just develop the strategy and understand that there is money out there and there's donors that like to give when they can see impact and they believe in what the individual is doing. So people will follow people that are passionate. So people are passionate about something they really like. So do something you really like, then the passion will come out naturally. And then start off small and then build on that. And then, as I said earlier, success, begets success. People forget that as a physician, you've got a lot of currency in the community because people still trust you, they still believe in you. And if they see you're doing something for the greater good of society and not to make yourself richer, then they're more likely to follow you. And don't be afraid to talk to the media. Media is desperate for good stories. So reach out to the media and tell them, hey, listen, I've got a better way to take care of teenage pregnancy, or I've got a better way to take care of, dementia, or I think there's a better way that we can screen for hypertension, or a variety of topics. And remember, right now is the best time to do this work because baby boomers, the majority of them are doing quite well. Baby boomers are realizing they're about to croak. And so they want to do something meaningful with their life in the remaining years. And they've got the time, the experience, and the resources to be able to help you out. So there's a lot of people out there that want to get involved, and they have to be asked. And if you don't ask them, they're not going to get involved.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. So I also raised a lot of capital in medical projects, and when we built Synergy, there was no money from the government, and they promised us they'll build a hospital, but there was nothing for anything else. Even the hospital got delayed, and every time that we raised were from private individuals who believe in the dream that we needed a wellness center, right? That basically functions like a giant outpatient one-stop shop center, right? And subsequently, a senior home that we built, same story, right? There was no funding. Any grants got written off, and there's no grants, right? So again, it was all private capital, right? So again, the passion, the willingness to ask, right? The importance of networking, get to the right people, and the more than I always tell people that there's no shortage of money, right? There's shortage of integrity.
Yeah.
Right. And the shortage of trust, like you say, the currency that we got is our trustworthiness as physicians. Right. So, wow, that's really, really amazing. So what's the next chapter of your life, Louis? You're already an icon in our space. What's next for you?
Oh, I don't plan that. It just happens to show up. And I'm sure there's something that's going to show up and, keep me moving forward. As long as I can, give back and see it's making a difference, I'll keep doing it. But eventually, I knock on wood, I've got good health and, good family support. And I follow a simple rule, your health first, your family second, and your job third. And if you ever get things out of that order, things aren't going to work.
Right on. So thank you very much, Louis. So I want you to give us some last words to our listeners who are young, aspiring medical entrepreneurs. What would you tell them, right? If you were to restart, what would you tell the young Louis? Would you do anything differently? And to all listeners, would you give them some final words of wisdom and inspiration?
Yeah, without a doubt, it's crucial that you have mentors. So find someone that inspires you and reach out to them and say, hey, listen, would you be my mentor? And then enter into a formal written contract with them in terms of what that mentorship is about. If you just do it on a handshake or a promise, it's not going to work. It has to be a written contract between the two of you, how often you're going to meet, what the expectations are, how you're going to resolve conflict, and when that mentorship's going to end. So have at least one or two mentors that you admire that are willing to take you under their wing. And they could be from business. They don't have to be physicians necessarily, but look within society for, business leaders usually, or sports figures, or there's a whole bunch of people, unsung leaders that are all great mentors, but get that relationship in writing. And if you want, one day we can talk about mentorship. I got a whole series of presentations on, the art of mentoring, but I can look back and see I've been able to, I think, be so successful because I had fantastic mentors throughout my life, and I still keep in contact with them.
Wow, that's really powerful. I remember saying that if we could see further and higher, it's because we're stepping on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah.
Right. And the best way we can learn is from mistakes, and better somebody else's mistakes than our own. Right.
Yeah.
So
and it was MacArthur that said, the only role of a leader is to create other leaders. So if you are a leader now, then your responsibility is to create other leaders. And if you're good at what you do, then your responsibility is to mentor others and impart those skill sets.
Right on. Well, that's really, really good. So thank you very much, Louis. This is a very, very impressionable episode with lots and lots of pearl. And our listeners usually listen to things again and again. And definitely, I would like to invite you back, Louis, because you got so much to offer to the community. So thank you, Louis.
Well, thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good day.
Thank you so much for listening to the Physician Empowerment Podcast. If you're ready to take those next steps in transforming your practice, finances, or personal well-being, then come and join us at physempowerment.ca, PHYS empowerment.ca, to learn more about how we can help. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd really appreciate it if you would share our podcast with a colleague or friend, and head over to Apple Podcasts to give us a 5-star rating and review. If you've got feedback, questions, or suggestions for future episode topics, we'd love to hear from you. If you want to join us and be interviewed and share some of your story, we'd absolutely love that as well. Please send me an email at kmilo@physempowerment.ca. Thank you again for listening. Bye.